Hello and welcome to Challenge Your Mind, Change the World, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of communication and critical thinking, and how these essential skills can transform our relationships and our futures with our teens. I'm your host, Francesca Hudson, the classic high school teacher, a writer, entrepreneur, and an advocate for meaningful conversations. Each episode, I explore strategies and share insights on how parents can enhance their communication with their children. It's not just about talking, it's about listening, understanding, and fostering an environment where critical thinking thrives. I'm here to equip you with the tools not only for immediate improvements in your family interactions, but also to set up our teens for long-term success in every aspect of their lives. So whether you're on your morning commute or winding down for the evening, join me as we unlock the potential of our conversations to shape a brighter, more thoughtful world. Let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome back to Challenge Your Mind, Change the World. I'm Francesca, the classic high school teacher, and today I want to talk about something that I think gets deeply, deeply underestimated in education. Do you know what it is? It's creative writing. Not essay writing, not assessment writing, not write 3 paragraphs explaining the theme. Nope, today we are looking at creative writing, imaginative writing, storytelling, creating characters, fantasy worlds, tiny journal entries, poems no one else has to read. The kind of writing that many teens used to naturally do when they were younger before their confidence disappeared. And today I especially want to talk about this through the lens of the nervous system. Because for many teenagers, especially neurodivergent teens, overwhelmed teens, anxious teens, perfectionist teens, emotionally sensitive teens, creative writing is not just an academic activity. It can actually become a nervous system repair. Now, I know that sounds dramatic, but if you've watched your teenagers slowly stop expressing themselves, stop taking risks, stop creating, stop speaking up, then you already know this goes much deeper than they just don't like writing anymore. Because for many teens, school writing becomes associated with correction, right? We're always focusing on correction of spelling, of grammar, of structure, of ideas, pace, doing it properly. And over time, some teenagers begin to experience writing as a threat. Not a physical threat, obviously, but a nervous system threat. Their brain starts asking, what if I get this wrong? What if this sounds stupid? What if someone judges me? What if I fail? What if I freeze again? And once the nervous system associates creativity with danger, then that's when we can see the shutdown. The shutdown begins. And you'll often see it as, I don't know what to write, or I hate writing, or they might say, this is dumb, I can't think, I'm tired, I don't care. But underneath that is often nervous system protection, because the brain is trying to avoid that discomfort. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we make as adults is assuming confidence comes before creativity, but actually, creativity often rebuilds confidence, especially low-pressure creativity, because something like creative writing gives teenagers something incredibly important: safe expression without constant evaluation. And that changes the nervous system completely. When teens enter a creative state where there are no immediate corrections, no grades to worry about, no pressure to perform, then their nervous system can really finally shift out of that survival mode. And the body softens, the brain becomes curious again, and imagination returns. This matters because curiosity and creativity cannot thrive in a chronically threatened nervous system. A dysregulated nervous system prioritizes survival. A regulated nervous system, on the other hand, can access play, exploration, humor, experimentation, and, most importantly, imagination. This is why some teenagers who struggle massively with school writing can suddenly spend 2 whole hours designing fantasy characters, writing fandom stories, scripting game plots, or creating imaginary worlds online. And parents often say to me, but they can write when they want to. And they're right. The parent is absolutely right. because psychologically those spaces feel safer. That's autonomy, choice, play, if you like, identity, less correction, less threat, and often less shame. I think many teens today are carrying far more nervous system exhaustion than we actually realise as adults. They are overstimulated, they are over-evaluated, over-observed, over-compared. Many feel like every part of their life is being measured. Grades, social media, friendships, appearance, productivity, performance. And eventually some teenagers become emotionally frozen, not lazy, frozen. There's a difference. And creative writing can become one of those few spaces where they are allowed to exist without needing to achieve. And honestly, that matters more than most people realise. I also think creativity helps teens rebuild identity. This is especially important for teenagers who have started defining themselves by struggle. I'm a bad writer, the behind student, the lazy one, the anxious one, the dyslexic one, the kid who never finishes things, those kinds of labels. And creative writing allows teens to reconnect with themselves outside of performance. They can create characters who are brave, funny, chaotic, adventurous, emotional, powerful. And sometimes those stories become rehearsal spaces for emotions they can't yet explain directly. That's why creative writing often feels surprisingly emotional for teenagers, even when they pretend it isn't. Sometimes the dragon in the story is actually anxiety. Sometimes the dystopian world is school pressure, or sometimes the exhausted main character is them. Creative expression gives emotions somewhere to go for them. And when emotions have nowhere to go, they often turn inward as shutdown, anxiety, irritability, or numbness. Now, I also want parents listening to this to know this. Creative writing does not have to look academic to be valuable. It does not have to be perfectly structured, beautifully edited, handwritten neatly, long, sophisticated, school quality, all of those kinds of things. Tiny writing counts. Messy writing counts. Voice notes definitely count. Comic strips count. Dialogue snippets count. One paragraph counts. A half-finished story counts. World-building notes count. Character sketches count. Do you get the idea? The nervous system heals through safety and repetition, not perfection. And sometimes rebuilding confidence starts with helping a teenager experience creativity without fear again. One thing I've noticed over the years is that many teenagers stop writing creatively because they believe they're not good at it. But often what they really mean is they no longer feel safe doing it imperfectly. That's a completely different problem. Perfectionism destroys creativity because creativity requires experimentation. It requires bad drafts or half ideas or weird ideas or unfinished ideas. And when a teen's nervous system becomes overly focused on getting it right, creativity becomes paralyzing. That's why low pressure creative environments matter so much. And what I mean by that is environments where there are no wrong ideas or unfinished work is allowed. Imagination matters far more than polish, and self-expression matters far more than performance. For some teenagers, that becomes the very first step towards rebuilding confidence in other areas too, because confidence isn't usually built through praise alone. Confidence is built through safe experiences of trying. And parents, if your teenager used to love stories, drawing characters, fantasy worlds, journaling, comics, role play, fan fiction, or imaginative play, please don't dismiss those things as just hobbies. Those creative spaces may actually be regulating their nervous system. They may be helping your teen process stress, identity, emotions, and overwhelm in ways that are deeply healthy. Creative expression is not separate from emotional well-being. They're often connected. So if your teenager has shut down around writing, I would encourage you not to start with pressure. Start with safety. Start with curiosity. Start with what kind of stories do you actually like? What would feel fun to create? What would feel low pressure? What would feel safe? Because sometimes the goal isn't producing brilliant writing. Sometimes the goal is helping a teenager reconnect with their own voice again. And that can change far more than their writing. if you are interested in looking a little bit further into this idea of creative writing and how it can help your teen's nervous system, then I will link a perfect toolkit for you in the show notes below. It's called the Safe Creative Writing Club, and it covers everything that we have talked about in this podcast episode and more. It's a really safe, gentle way to get your teen back into some creative writing. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Challenge Your Mind, Change the World. And if this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with another parent who has a teen struggling with confidence, overwhelm, or creative shutdown. I'll talk to you again next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Challenge Your Mind, Change the World. I hope you found our discussion enriching and that you're walking away with new ideas to enhance communication and critical thinking within your own family. If you enjoyed this episode and are finding value in our conversations, please take a moment to rate us on your favourite podcast platform. Your feedback not only supports us, but also helps other parents discover the tools they need to foster stronger relationships and critical thinking skills with their teens. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this with someone who you think could benefit from our today's topic. I'm Francesca Hudson, and I look forward to joining you again next time as we continue to challenge our minds and change the world. Until then, keep thinking critically and communicating effectively.